Good afternoon. We're here at the WTG HR Summit Europe. I'm here with Dr. Edward De Bono of the Edward De Bono Foundation. Welcome, Dr. De Bono.
Thank you. Good to be here.
For the benefit of people that decided not to attend this year,
Yes.
what do you think they have missed? And also, how important do you think it is that people take time to come to events like this?
Well, one thing they've missed is my talk in the morning about innovation, creativity. Then there are various other talks full of experience and pointers to what can be done, what should be done. So I think people should make an effort to attend this sort of event.
Yes. With your expertise is in innovation and creativity.
Creativity, yes.
Do you think that a lack of innovation and creativity has contributed to not only the recession, but also the inability of many organisations to be able to battle their way out of it?
Well, the biggest block to creativity is complacency. And I have a little story about complacency. This fellow wanting to commit suicide jumps off the top of a skyscraper. As he passes the third floor window, he says, "So far, so good." So complacency is great happiness with what you're doing, with no thought to the future.
There's an old saying, which is, ideas are 10 a penny. Do you think by creating an atmosphere, an environment of creativity, you can set people off on projects which come to no avail? And how do you manage and focus that down to projects which are useful to the business?
Well, you see, here we're looking at creativity and judgment. Creativity is the ability to generate ideas. Judgment is the ability to select the ones you want to work on and the ability to work on them. So there are disasters of creativity. They're not disasters of creativity, they're disasters of judgment. And sometimes, to be sure, you may want to take a high-risk idea because a high-reward idea. Yes, but that's your choice as judging the idea. You can't say, let's not be creative, so then there won't be any troubles. You say, no, let's be as creative as possible, and let's make our judgment good enough to choose the best ideas.
When things aren't going so well as they
Yes.
currently are
Yes.
across sectors,
Yes.
often creative ideas are put on the back burner.
Well-
What do you think is the problem with that?
Well, no, one of the outputs of creativity is simplicity. How to do things in a more simple way. Some years ago, I wrote a book called Simplicity, and in it I said, when you leave the United Kingdom, why do you need passport control? If you catch someone who's overstayed his or her visa, you arrest them, you bring them back to court, spend a lot of money, then you deport them. If they're leaving, just say goodbye. 3 months later, they abolish passport control. I can't prove it's because someone read my book, but chronologically, that's what happened. So simplicity, and in difficult times, simplicity is a very useful thing to have.
A lot of the blame for the current recession is put at the door of the board of directors. Do you think that's a fair criticism? And if so, where do you think that leaders of organisations have gone wrong, or do you think that's an unfair criticism?
I think it's partly fair, and obviously there's certain structural. I mean, the bonuses given to high-performing bankers obviously induce them to take risks they might not otherwise have taken. So there's certain structural things like that.
How, with regard to creativity in an organisation from top to bottom,
Yes.
the lower areas of the organisation, how do you think that, how would you suggest that people promote the concept of being innovative?
Well, it's two things. First of all, people have to understand that they are expected to be creative. They're expected to have ideas. Someone will be willing to listen to those ideas, and then possibly have a sort of chief ideas officer or someone who is looking after creativity and treating it as seriously as finance or legal affairs are treated. It's not just, well, someone will have an idea sometime. No, it's got to be treated much more seriously.
With regard to ideas that are worked on and then either binned or don't come to fruition, how do you maintain people's enthusiasm for creative thought?
Very good question. I think there should be a newsletter once a year or more often, which publishes people's ideas. So even if the idea is not worked on, you get some recognitions. People know you've had that idea. I think that's necessary. There should be someone to listen to the ideas, definitely. Not to listen is very demotivating. And publishing them in a newsletter, internal newsletter, so everyone knows someone had this idea. That's the way to keep things going.
And to reward people.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
With regard to some of the projects that you're working on at the moment,
Yes.
perhaps you could give us a sort of like an overview of some
Well,
of the things that you've been working
there's
on.
quite a lot to do with education, and the Chinese government is trying out my work in schools in 5 provinces, and if they like the results, they may put it in 680,000 schools. And there's projects in India, another big project in Malaysia, online education and so on. These are the sort of things I'm working on. Then, as European Union Ambassador for Thinking, I'm producing a monthly World Thinking report on the thinking that is going on, or is not going on, or should be going on in different areas.
And are you doing more online?
I will be doing more online in the future, yes.
Could you give us some sort of idea of the plans that you've got in mind?
Well, eventually I'll be running a online course in creativity.
Yeah.
That's all.
And
Yes.
how does that program manifest itself?
And they're also online. There's this new code I've developed, thebonocode.org, and because language is very inadequate to describe complex situations and also very lengthy, you need a whole paragraph. With a simple code, you can describe half a page of description in a single code, and that's now available on the internet. Yes.
To finish with, obviously the HR directors are
Yes.
the main focus for a show such as this.
Yes.
And obviously at the moment the HR agenda
Yes.
is the big focus on the HR agenda.
Yes.
What advice would you give to HR directors and HR managers to keep people's chins up in times like this?
Well, it is difficult because obviously part of HR work will be to suggest who might be laid off or something.
Yep.
That's very difficult. And I think smoothing those processes is going to be very important. Arguing the case whether it really makes sense to lay off this sort of person or not. So I think it's a smoothing position and a defensive position in some respects. But really to make it clear that the HR person is as much on the side of the worker as of management. It's not just executing management's policy.
And do you truly believe that innovation and HR are key to fighting our way out of the current recession?
The answer is yes.
Yeah.
And other than that, we just have gestures and the recession just continues.
Yeah. Dr. De Bono, thank you very much.
You.